There's been an epidemic over the last few years of females suffusing modern movies and television with their own unique brand of feminism. Progressivism has been fundamentally detrimental to the general narrative of a movie or show, leading to declining viewing numbers, a general dislike of all of these characters, and a retreat towards older films and shows that portrayed characters in a more realistic manner. I've already spoken at length regarding the concept of the Mary Sue and the many females who have continued to perpetuate these abrasive stereotypes. But in this video, I want to talk about the specific personality types that have poisoned modern stories, and will continue to do so until modern writers get some perspective and get their heads on straight. The first reason why modern female characters are terrible is their anger. Modern female characters, I have found, are incredibly angry. And whether they have reason to be angry or not, this is not an excuse to remove all other emotions from them. This is not an excuse for them to be completely stoic and abrasive all the time, forsaking all other aspects of what makes a character memorable or relatable. This is not an excuse for them to threaten others or mock them based on events and circumstances that they have no business talking about or being in. I find that in their anger, these female characters seem to give themselves a pass while playing victim to the circumstances of their lives and not acknowledging the choices that have led them to their present state. Examples of this include Sylvie from the Loki show. Whether or not she had rough origins does not excuse her from the fact that she still killed and manipulated people on her path to revenge, and doesn't seem to think that there is anything wrong with what she has done. Instead, she digs her heels in and acts as if each act of bloodshed was justified, no matter what she had to do. Her anger has blinded her to the concepts of compassion, empathy, and perspective that all people, male or female, begin to acquire as they go through life, and in doing so has turned herself into one of the worst things a character can become: stagnant. I've harped on discount Galadriel over here a lot over the last few months, but I simply cannot make a video about the unlikability of modern females without mentioning her. Aside from the ridiculous fights she engages in throughout the show, her personality and the anger that she has carried since her childhood makes her a character that is thoroughly unlikable. She has very little compassion, very little empathy, and she is extremely demanding. Her perspective is the only thing that matters, and she uses her temper in ridiculous, unrealistic, and cringe-worthy moments throughout the show. Her expressions remain virtually the same every time she is on screen. The sort of eyes half-lidded, lips curled back over her teeth, or the shiny-eyed rage that she uses before she threatens a man's life. While I can sympathize with her past, her anger is not an excuse for her to exercise that rage on others, or her clear desire for bloodlust. Or we can take a look at Riva from the Kenobi show and just what a disaster she was. The show used her origins, unoriginal and illogical as they may be, as a springboard for why she was angry all the time, and displayed no other emotion than that rage. Apparently anger is enough for you to survive 2 lightsaber wounds to the gut, and go toe-to-toe with Vader for longer than 30 seconds. Riva's rage being her only personality trait was an unbelievable disservice to her character, because she could have been pretty good. I would have liked to see a lot less of her, given that this is a show based on Obi-Wan Kenobi, but there have been memorable side characters in shows before that have imprinted themselves on our memories, regardless of who they were. All of that could have been achieved with better writing and maybe a better actor. No slight to Moses Ingram, but I don't think this was the right role for her, and her constantly talking through her teeth and using next to no other facial expressions made her unbelievable and just painful to watch. My point in all of this is that anger should not be the whole personality of a character, and if it is, you're going to lose a lot of viewers. No one wants to see someone who is just angry all the time, because that is an example of flawed and lazy writing, or else just a misconception on the part of the writers who think that anger means strength. It does not. It simply means that you don't know how to write. The second reason is narcissism and entitlement. Most female characters these days seem to suffer from both a victim and superiority complex. Their origins usually always begin in oppression of some kind and lead to them becoming either incredible warriors, masters in their fields of study, or else revenge seekers who think the world owes them something when nothing could be farther from the truth. They demand fairness in all things when it comes to their goals or ambitions, but refuse to extend the same courtesy to others due to these characters having values that don't align with their goals. By extension, they are also narrow-minded and unsympathetic to those around them, citing their pain as greater than anyone else's, and thus their perspective should be the only thing that should be listened to. It is a strange and painful dichotomy that allows for this. Female characters these days are both obsessed with playing the victim, but are also very fond of reminding others that they have risen from nothing and thus are the best at what they do and no one can question them. Anyone who does is to be dismissed or ignored and canceled. It is the ultimate do as I say, not as I do. A prime example of this is the character of Wanda Maximoff, who I actually started off really liking. She had incredible powers, seemed like a unique character, and had gone from villain to a hero simply by putting aside her desire for revenge. She recognized that the path she and Pietro were heading down would lead to total destruction, and as a result, the both of them decided to join the Avengers because the human race should have had a chance to live. I found this conscious choice on their part compelling as a result, and wanted to see more of her. Despite the fact that joining them made her life a lot more difficult, she saw it through. This was what cemented her status as a hero to me. But there was still a bit of darkness in her with scenes like this one. This probably should have been a warning of what was to come, but in the next few movies, Wanda's compassion and fear of her own abilities outweighed her darkness. It was a loss of vision that forced her over the edge, sending her from hero right back into the folds of being a villain once more. What's more, in her own self-named show, Wanda's entitlement to her own happiness spirals out of control, and the show refuses to address it. She claims that her happiness, and by extension, the entire town she has enslaved, is hers by right, and that no one will take it from her again. Vision himself attempts to address this with her, but she gaslights him by claiming that she doesn't know what he's talking about, and that the role she has assigned for him to play, i.e., being Billy and Tommy's father, should be enough for him. The conversation is, of course, never continued, and the show desperately tries to paint Wanda's actions as an excuse for her despicable behavior, or else use Agatha as a scapegoat. Yes, she wants Wanda's power, but the desire to claim it is not the same as the enslavement of an entire town by virtue of mind control, forcing them to think her thoughts and experience her nightmares. A local lady begs Wanda to let them die if she won't let them go, but it's only a flash before the show returns to the action, which is very infuriating. In the case of She-Hulk, not only is she an insufferable narcissist, but claiming that she has more experience in controlling her temper than Bruce, who was a literal victim of domestic abuse, while she has had to deal with something so insidious as catcalling, is really quite laughable. It continues with characters like Cassie Scott, who feel that her teenage angst and activism is a better way to change the world than her father, who, actually helped save it. Or characters like Riri Williams, whose entire character is built around her narcissism. All of these female characters suggest with their words and actions that something is owed to them, and they will do whatever it takes to get it, hurt whoever they must, and kill whoever they need to because their happiness is the only thing that matters. And finally, the third reason why we have abysmally written female characters these days is that there is no accountability for them. The problem with creating a ruthless and abrasive female character is that they will often say or do things that are hurtful or downright harmful to those around them. In the case of Galadriel, driving her regiment to the breaking point and not facing any disciplinary action for nearly killing them all. Instead, their course of action is to send her to the Tolkien equivalent of heaven. In finding out who Sauron is and not telling anyone, she skips out on the consequences of bringing the darkest Dark Lord since Morgoth back to Middle-earth. In Wanda choosing to release the people of the town as any person who has a conscience should do, she is lauded as a hero, and her actions swept under the rug with more jaw-dropping writing. With characters like Carly in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, she kills people, threatens Sam's nephews, and tries to take the planet to a new world order because her way of life has been disrupted. At the end of the show, even though Sam has plenty of reasons to be glad to see her gone, he turns around and starts spouting the very ideology that she espoused. In this way, even though she is dead, Carly achieved exactly what she wanted, and is made to look like a victim who will face no real-life consequences because she died before she could. She is made out to be a victim, her actions those of a frightened girl with limited options rather than those of a calculated and cunning criminal. In Riva killing other Force sensitives and yet blaming Vader for all of her suffering, even though she has helped them perpetuate all of the crimes he has committed across the galaxy. Not only does she escape the show without facing any of the consequences of her actions, she is in fact afforded an opportunity for redemption by saving Luke Skywalker, even though she is the one that set out to kill him in the first place. There are many other reasons why female characters these days are poorly written and nearly universally unlikable. But I felt as if these three were the biggest. And yet, whenever the ratings for these shows and movies are released, the higher-ups in media begin to wonder why the audience is not enjoying what they're seeing and simply claim it as superhero fatigue, or, in my personal favorite, bigotry. And so long as they continue to make these abysmal female characters, I will continue to make videos about them because at the very least it will be mildly entertaining for me, and I hope for you. And just because I'd like to keep things fair and equal, I will also be doing a video about the reasons why a lot of modern male characters are terrible as well. Drop a comment down below about what you guys think are the worst personality traits of these female characters, and let's have a conversation about it. Until next time, everyone.